Silent Swede sat on the stone floor of the tower and laughed without sound, which is to say he smiled with great animation. It was funny to him. It was a joy to him that his punishment for leaving the grounds was solitude, for he had left the grounds to gain solitude. He had sat there in the tower many times, and it never bothered him. There was no one there to see him, and he hated above all else to be seen. There was no one there to talk to, and he wasn't even capable of speech. He was a mute. A chain, with the dead personality of a snake, held a metal ring at one end, which was anchored into the stone wall. Its other end was linked to a metal cuff that grasped Silent Swede's 17-year-old ankle. It was securing him to solitude. The chain was snake-like, but it was his friend. The inside of the tower had come to feel like the inside of his mind. It was a surreal space, quiet yet intense. The space lifted upward into a dreamy cylinder. Thin vertical windows wound around at ascending intervals. Through them, snow-softened moonlight cut into the air, creating an upward stairway of glow. Above this glow was a dim nothingness, an unlit ceiling that might have gone on forever. In that blackness above, bats might have been playfully flitting about, or the dark purple and red angels of the chapel-stained glass might have released themselves from their natural medium to float around up there for the purpose of holding a conference about the children of the great institute. Silent Swede was being held in the tower because he had gone to the tiny graveyard full of tiny graves on the edge of the institute. It was there that a matron discovered him. If there was one place forbidden to go, it was the graveyard full of tiny graves. Silent Swede had gone there to observe up close what he had noticed from a distance. From a distance, he had seen a purple smear within the April snow. Up close, he had observed, with great delight, a crocus pushing up through the cold white into the sunlit early spring air. This precious flower was finding a way to live. The delicate petals seemed so vulnerable to the winterscape around the lone flower, but the boldness of the purple screamed of a life force that cared not for vulnerability. The purple soul would command and preserve the body. Life. If there was one thing to spark Silent Swede's imagination, it was the sight of conspicuous life. From a single flower to a beautiful eagle, to a person throwing their arms into a V after winning some game, any such thing received the whole of his bright attention and enthusiasm. He threw his head back, looking up into the excited stillness of the tower above him, and as he did, his mane of hair shifted. His hair shot up from his forehead, flowed back, around, and down into a massive flow of waves, poet-like, lion-like. He kept his hair in this fashion in an attempt to grant himself a curtain behind which to hide. In reality, it served to draw attention to him. Such do defense mechanisms always bring about the very thing they are intended to circumvent. His eyes would have shone through, no matter how he wore his hair. They were a blue so intense it was as though electricity ran through them, lighting them. Maybe this is accurate. His mind was a machine running his eyes, for the critical purpose of detecting the world around him, the world the machine was so curious to know. Looking up into the tower, the manifestation of his inner mind, he admonished himself with inner dialogue. "You got sloppy, kid. How did you let that one, more than any of them, discover you? She's old and wears thick glasses. I know, you got excited. But you should have jumped behind that big old rock and become a part of it, and only then you could have pulled out the sketchbook. But who cares, old boy? you got a solid look at that brave flower beating its way up through the snow. With this, he pulled from his jacket a leather sketchbook that echoed the shape of his torso. As he opened it and grabbed a pencil from his breast pocket, his eyes went to that universal, wide, blank stare of a genius at work. The crocus was reborn onto the page under his hand. Every curve of each leaf was a thrill of discovery to him, and he felt each discovery being catalogued into his capable brain. He saw it before him like a photograph taken by his most precious possession, his high-functioning mind. Though he drew in lead, still he saw the purple hues shading in against the white snow. The scientific detail of the plant was somehow, imperceptibly, infused with the emotion of the artist. The flower was made to express a delicate heroism. On that page grew the same plant its Latin term would designate, every detail identifiable to the most inscrutable scientist. Yet it had the passions of a valiant hero. This heroic flower cared not for World War II raging across the seas at that moment, or for the Minnesota snow girding it all around, or for the very weeds that cut at its roots. To the purple flower, the sunlight was truth, and it broke through the cold nothingness to reach the truth and bask in its glory. As with most of his drawings, he would pin it to a tree near the location of his observation. The appearance of his drawings had grown into grand folklore at the Institute, equal to the lore regarding Silent Swede's ability to disappear. So disjointed were the orphans and matrons of the Institute, living in various separated tiny populations, that it was difficult for rumors to spread. But Silent Swede had become a figure known to all. This name and reputation was all the more powerful due to the debate over whether or not he really existed. A flash would be seen in a child's periphery, and he might turn to the others proclaiming, "Silent Swede!" The others would be full of doubt and wonder, as was the observer. If a drawing appeared soon after the sighting, the legitimacy of the sighting grew. The appearance of the drawings was undebatable, but the source of the drawings was the focal point of many theories. Maybe the most accepted theory was that Silent Swede was a ghost. The story went that he was a kid who died there either in 1892 or 1893. On this, there was dispute. And ever since, he went about drawing pictures for the kids to try to tell them of a secret he had discovered. The discovery of the secret had been the cause of his death. Thus, the drawings were clues to a murder mystery. Another explanation, much whispered about, was that he was a superhero, like those in the DC comics they all knew so well. These, and many other theories like them, show the quality of Silent Swede's drawings, and what they conveyed to those who stood before them. It was as if the children of the Institute found themselves within impromptu outdoor museum exhibits. A sacred interaction occurred between Silent Swede, the artist, and various random viewers, children and adults alike. Individual souls would stand before his drawings and feel that inner portion of their self they hadn't been aware of or had forgotten about. That boy flying from the swing with that grand smile, that could be me. A moment such as this is inestimably important to an orphan. Just as his pencil was giving finishing touches to the snow surrounding the flower, a sound came to his ear. "Oh," he said in his mind, "it's Wednesday evening. Very nice." He put his pencil away, looked with satisfaction at his creation, then leaned back and closed his eyes. Silent Swede knew it was Wednesday evening, for a sound made its way into the tower. It came from the main hall through the vents, filtered into the tower to sound like a choir of fairy children on a distant cloud. I've got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. They chorused the simple and benevolent melody. Silent Swede grinned. Then he smiled. Then he mimed great laughter. Had a person been observing from outside a window, they would have assumed the glass muted the raucous laughter. But in fact, no sound emanated from Silent Swede, and his laughter rolled on. Suddenly, wickedly, another voice joined in. It was a person within the tower, very close. The happy solitude of the tower gave way to a horror of an attacker. Singing along in almost a whisper, as if to show just how close the unseen source of the voice was. I've got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart, freak. Down in my heart. It was a girl's voice, a young woman's voice. It might have been a witch's voice. It was hate articulated. Silent Swede felt sure he was the first to ever hear this voice, for he had never heard of a sound so terrible. Had the devil the matrons had told him about appeared, Silent Swede would have sidled up to him for comfort and protection. I've got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart, to stay, dumbass. Silent Swede was jolted out of his voiceless laughter. Fear ran like slow electricity up his torso, grabbed the back of his brain, and pulled his mouth open. The reality of his fantasy was ended by the nightmare of this person's presence in the room.
Hey, you dumb freak!
The voice shrieked, ripping into Silent Swede's ability to think. What you got there, freak? Another one of your drawings? You probably think your drawings are pretty good, like anyone actually cares. So stupid. Oh my, is the freak done with his silent howling? You have saved my ears from the torment of a freak's laughter. What kind of dumbass freak never says anything and always hides away? What are you so afraid of? Spoke the voice with an indescribable coldness. Silent Swede looked around him in all directions involuntarily. The voice could be coming from anywhere. It bounced so randomly within the rounded walls. Upward. He looked upward. It must be coming from that undefined space way up there. He searched, his head cocked upward toward the blackness above. Don't worry about where I am, freak. Just know that I'm watching you. I'm always watching over you. The void of sound the voice left behind was horrific. It was crueler than any words. It spoke torturous volumes. The silence described eyes that watched him. The silence was broken by the voice with a confession that couldn't really be called a confession as it was pronounced with pride. I burned down Cottage 8. I didn't mean to burn the whole goddamned place down. I just wanted to burn that stupid painting. Here the voice was interrupted by its own menacing laughter. But I did. I did burn the whole goddamned place down. Freak. I know I can tell you everything I do, because you won't be able to blab about it. Right, Silent Swede? The voice said his name, drawing out the syllables mockingly. Indeed, Cottage 8 had burned down just the day before, orphaning 29 orphans. Fortunately, no one was hurt. I set fire to the fire. I lit one simple match, and I put it to that stupid, tiny fire, said the voice, turning the confession into a riddle. And the next thing you know, fa-voom! The whole stupid place was in flames. The chain tinkled along the hard floor, the snake waking to evil, as Silent Swede bowed his head into his lifting knees. How did the voice know how to hurt him so perfectly, and why did it wish to? From the outside, his body became a petrified statue, sculpted into the shape of a question mark. On the inside, his body was becoming electrified poison, or so it felt. He could only think one thing. Eyes. There were eyes on him. He couldn't stand people looking at him, seeing him. And now he was being forced to sit there while the eyes of a truly menacing person got to look at him all it wanted. He could do nothing. Eyes. He could have no thoughts. To try to think was to see those eyes he couldn't see. His chest began to hurt in a very scary way. His heart was about to explode. That was obvious to him. And the eyes would see it happen. And the eyes would express laughter when it did happen. His breath. It must have been his heart on the brink of bursting that hacked at his breath. He couldn't breathe. And the eyes loved it. The eyes loved it. If only his heart would go ahead, just get it done, burst. That was the only way the eyes could be ended. The voice laughed. You really are a freak. God, how stupid. You really can't talk. And they say you can't stand being seen. People like you are so fake. You think you're so smart, so good. You're just a freak. Look at you. That's what I'll always be doing, looking at you. And I'll see a goddamned sissy, fake freak. There was a silence that crept along for 2 minutes. I'll leave you alone for now, dum-dum. But I'll see you again, soon. We'll have a nice talk. See you later. In fact, I'll see you always. Silent Swede sat for hours waiting for a death that just wouldn't quite show up. Death was merciless.